What's happening? So I'm going to attempt to make this video and with this microphone inside of Starbucks. I ran out of coffee at home, so I wanted to make this video to talk about the phenomenon of the spiritual world and beliefs and manifesting. And so where did my crazy beliefs originate? Well, as a kid, you have a sense of wonder and curiosity, and you see movies and they say that they have a lot of supernatural stuff on the movies. So it's intriguing, especially when you're growing up in an environment where like everybody is dysfunctional and there's abuse going on and stuff like that. You kind of like seek other means to obtain the peace and security or a sense of security. So a child might, like myself, become interested in the supernatural and the otherworldly. As young as I was 5, I was interested in things like vampires and witches and ghosts and Bigfoot and stuff like that, right? Originally. So that kind of stuff appealed to me. Halloween was my favorite time of year. I'd get like pop-up books with haunted. I had a pop-up book that was like a haunted house, book about a haunted house, and the ghost would pop up in the book and stuff. Anyway, so the supernatural intrigued me, and so as you grow up and you get older, you realize that you get a sense that this isn't true, right? That this is stuff that you've seen in the movies and in books. And for some time, I also, briefly believed that the supernatural and stuff was like the movies themselves and the entertainment was meant to suppress, the truth about supernatural abilities and stuff like that. Because if you first seen magic being done in a movie, it gives you the impression, well, magic is in movies, not in reality, because you don't actually see it in reality. But who knows? Is that true? I don't know. But objectively, my personal experience, I would argue, is that it is not real reality. I've considered it that that the movies are true, that it is just fantasy. In other words, it is just for the movies, right? So then, as I get older, become a teenager, I start believing in God and Christianity and prayer and all that stuff. So I would be praying for stuff to happen, right? And I was told, if you ask anything in the name of Jesus, you will receive it. Well, what is the actual lived truth? The actual lived truth was that nothing I ever prayed for ever got answered, right? And I even went to churches like Pentecostal churches where they still believe that, God still actively does miracles and still does supernatural things. And even then, I never seen any real prayer get answered or anything. And so then I wanted to believe those things. I got into my feelings a lot and wanted to believe all the supernatural stuff. And so I watched a movie called Push, and in the movie it was really actually a pretty cool movie, right? This movie called Push, and in the movie, it's about these people that have supernatural powers. I watched it just yesterday, and I enjoyed it because of a multitude of reasons. One is, the concept itself kind of played on that trope of like people that have psychic abilities and the government has an agency that tries to stop them or use them or whatever. It's a common thing that's played out in stories, and so that was cool. And what else was cool about it is these people, they had powers enough to where you could suspend your disbelief, and kind of perceive that, hey, this could be real, like as far as like the movie made you believe that these things could be real. Unlike, for example, Marvel comic movies, they're so over the top and so hyper exaggerated that it's like, no offense to Marvel fans, but it's almost like it's made for a low IQ audience or children, right? So, but yeah, the Marvel comics, they're so over the top, like in like their abilities and their powers, like their powers are unexplained and how they really got them, and they just kind of like, even Wolverine, he seems to have the most quote unquote natural ability, right? But there is no origin of how he developed the being able to protrude bone out of his body in the form of claws. Like there's no origin story that I know of how he developed those powers. Because originally I thought that the X-Men were their powers were derived from some kind of like radioactive stuff, in their environment. And later on I found out that there's really not a lot of explanation. And like things like lasers from your eyes, that's just too over the top for me, and I can't suspend my disbelief and enjoy the script of the movie. I just can't. I mean, but in this movie like Push, in that movie, I could suspend my disbelief because they just made it seem like, okay, these are humans with abilities. Like they had like telekinesis, they had like telekinetic powers, and then they had what else? Like the ability to see the future. The most over the top ability that these people had on this movie was how they were able to, a couple of guys, they were able to scream really loud, like to such a high pitch that it will destroy your eardrums and make you sick and die even. That was kind of over. That's where they kind of went too over the top for me, but I drooled through it and decided to overlook it. But for the most part, I could suspend my disbelief, and the setting was kind of like, the setting is in like apparently Japan, and so it kind of has this like cyberpunk aesthetic quality almost to it, but it does have this mysterious, I think that kind of adds to it. Honestly, I wish it would have been done in the United States, but I still see what they did with the whole Asian Japanese setting, you know, what do you call that in storytelling? The environment. There's the plot. There's the whatever. You know what I'm talking about. The setting that it takes place in. All right, so it did give it a good quality. So in the movie, oh, and let me say, I just want to say this real quick. Like, sometimes in the past, I would get these feelings, these impressions, these sensations of anemoia with some movies. I would get that kind of feeling, and they would I would sometimes I would call some movies, like I do some songs, as part of the Silver Sun Anemoia, what I call Silver Sun Anemoia, a time in my life, a phase in my life where I kind of like perceived another reality, you know, and I felt like a nostalgia towards it, a reality that I never lived, and with a past that never existed as well, and that I can get into that on another video. Now, this movie Push, in my opinion, should have the aesthetic and the quality of it, and just the whole story itself, like, and that the quality that and the atmosphere that the movie had should have induced that, but it did not at all. In fact, this movie did not induce any kind of feeling within me at all. I just found it cognitively interesting, like in my head. This is a cool movie, it's interesting, and I'm having a good time watching it. Like, it's just like that. It wasn't even emotionally excited, it was just thoughtful exciting. Like, I was just fascinated by, like, what are they going to present? Are they going to present, like, okay, so they've presented someone with telekinetic abilities, they've presented someone with psychic abilities to see the future. They also had people with powers that were able to go into people's minds and reform their memories and install false memories into their minds so that they would believe that memory instead of what really happened. So that was pretty cool, and there was some pretty interesting maneuvers that the character pulled, you know, that created this, you know, there was maneuvers that they pulled in the movie where, you know, oh my God, I think I just see this girl that I used to see. I wish I would have looked at her earlier to see if it was her. That'd be some shit if it was her. Oh crap. Hope it's not her, because then that way, you know. Oh God. It makes me think that it is her. I wonder if it is. Hold on a minute. I'm going to keep this rolling just in case. I am curious if it is her, because she did have a daughter, and there's a woman. I think it is her. Holy crap! I think it is her. Holy moly. Hold on. She's coming back in. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm just like, you know. It looks like her. It might be her. Hold on a minute. I'm gonna keep this rolling. My bad. This is crazy. It just looks like her, man. This girl I was seeing for like almost like 9 months, but my eyes ain't that good enough to tell. But which is funny because in this movie that I'm talking about, Push, it was about like it involved this little girl with psychic abilities, and like there's her mom's the main character is her mom too. So I don't know. I'm not trying to make that connection. Anyways, I'm just going to continue talking. I don't think it's her. I can't even tell though. But it looks so much like her. Probably isn't. But anyways, so what I was going to say is so yeah, they had these telekinetic abilities, psychic abilities, and so there's a part of your brain that can suspend disbelief and say, "Oh yeah, I could see that happening." And so what happens is as there's a part in the movie where the guy he lost his abilities, his telekinetic abilities. And so he, as he's like losing his telekinetic abilities, that could have been her. I'm telling you, like that could have been her. I guess I'll never know, right? Because she just left the coffee shop, came back in, and did something, and then like she ordered something, it looked like, and then she left again. So anyways, they kind of got distracted there, but so in the movie, oh yeah, the guy was not able to, like he had he lost his abilities due to lack of using the abilities, and so he kept having to practice to like make them work again. So that's the part where there's this logical, or not logical, but cognitive, or however you would say it, there's this, not a belief, but a thought that I had, like, what if we really do have those abilities, but like we've lost them, and so therefore they're not activated. And the movies perpetuate the idea that it's just fantasy. You know, there's still that thought, but I can't say I believe that because I can't prove any of that. Alright, none of my prayers ever were answered, and the times in retrospect that I've manifested stuff, sure, there have been some odd, crazy situations, like where it appears that I had manifested something, but in reality, did I manifest those things? I mean, I could go into stories that are just mind-blowing, but even then, like, is that just probability and timing and coincidence, and weird coincidences happen more often due to probability, more than we think, and it just seems like it's supernatural. Let's be real about it, right? That doesn't change the fact, or that doesn't change this idea that there might be a simulated reality. I mean, it still could be some kind of not real reality, even if it's like not a simulation. I mean, it could be like, you know, just like this reality isn't real, you know what I'm saying? Because it may not be a simulation of the real reality, but I'm just saying, like, in reality, just to be truthful, I don't experience any real supernatural type of stuff. I guess my best way to word it is, like, I don't experience like a lot of, and the times that I do experience the manifestations or synchronicities, like I can always go back later and logically rationalize it away. So I did also watch another movie. I found some time to watch two movies, right? But I watched a movie called The Men Who Stare at Goats. And so when I watched that movie, hold on a minute. Dang, it's past my time to get out of here. So I'm gonna try to talk as I get out of here. I hope I don't get no like flag for the music. But my voice probably sounds muffled because this microphone sucks on these expensive earbuds. But so I watched the Men Who Stare at Goats for the first time, and so what happens is in the movie, the dudes in the movie have psychic abilities, and they're able to basically they have psychic abilities, and they're these eccentric dudes, and they've got psychic abilities. And so anyways, so I guess I could take these off now, probably have better hearing quality. But yeah, the dudes have psychic abilities, and at some point the government does tests, and they use goats, and these men are able to like kill off goats just by using their mind, like some kind of telekinetic power to kill the goat. And so then I watched this movie, The Men That Stare at Goats, and then this dude I know writes a Facebook post, and he goes, "I think I'm considering selling all of my goats. Anyone want to give me a price," or something like that. And so I looked up the woman actor from that movie, also, who was from Push, the movie. I looked up the woman, the actor in the movie, and looked her up, and she was like all she had an Instagram page, right? And so I looked up her Instagram page, and I just scrolled through the first interesting post she made, and on the post it has a goat, like a little video clip or a picture of a goat. I was like, holy crap, what's going on? So anyways, I thought that was kind of odd and interesting at the same time. But anyways, but like, I'm not fazed by that anymore. You could argue that it's a synchronicity, but like I'm almost like I'm not even fazed by it, because I don't know. I don't like what's going to happen after that. Okay, so I've seen some synchronicities. Is my life going to change? Nope. My experience objectively so far has been, yeah, I have all these like interesting synchronicities, but nothing really ever happens, So yeah, so then earlier today, like I said, I've dabbled in like prayer and attempting to manifest stuff, and even earlier today, I was like imagining like going back to this house that my cousins used to live in, where I've got really good memories. And visiting my younger self and telling him, look, start drawing and selling these pictures now. Start drawing and selling these pictures now. And then there are these things called timelines. And once you become, I'm going to teach you what timelines are. Start selling them now, and then when you get older, you'll be a full-time artist. You'll be selling pictures and paintings full-time. And then bring this back to your future, to me, your future self. Bring this knowledge and awareness back to me, your future self. Align me with that timeline where you're successful at drawing pictures and making paintings and creating things. Put yourself on this timeline, is what I told my younger self. Like, but then, and I've done that in the past, because, you know, I'm trying to experiment. It's like prayer or whatever, or in this case, it's like visiting younger self on a different timeline, on a timeline where it did work out for me, and all that good stuff. Well, here's the thing. Shortly after I was done with that, I was like, you know, really, like, there is no timeline. There is no other timeline. Of course, there could be. You know, all of the things I've spoken about are more cognitive. They're more like, you know, like cognitive, and they're more rational and logical. They're not like feeling. They're just what I believe in the moment, or not. They're more like what I believed could be, right? Not necessarily beliefs. So, I don't know. I just said to myself, like, after I did that little meditation thing, I said, you know what? It's kind of stupid. You know, that's not going to change my current reality at all. Because the idea is that you go back to your younger self and you give them the information that you lacked. And then you merge timelines with your younger self, and then that alters your now future. It's a cool concept. It's a cool idea, but I can't really say that I 100% believe that. So, and it would be cool if suddenly, out of nowhere, younger me got the message on that timeline, and then he shifted onto this timeline, or put me on his timeline to where we merge, and then suddenly I'm now a full-time artist. Like, within the next day or two, suddenly, I don't know, that store that I got my artworks for sale in calls me and says, hey, you know, one of your pieces sold. Or I get some kind of muse to create some piece tonight, for example, and somebody buys it, and then people start wanting to buy it. You know, that's how I would assume that would manifest if it did. You know, of course, in my opinion, you probably have to actively engage. You have to actively engage in the process, or maybe you even don't. You know, maybe it's organic. You know, as I just described, somebody calls me up, hey, one of your pieces sold. Or I get a muse to inspiration. I've been wanting to, like, get back into it, but I can't. I mean, like, I'm so tied up with time. You could argue with me and say, oh, well, you just did this 30-minute video. You could have done something. I don't know, man. I just want to get this off of my chest. Really, it's, in a way, it's kind of therapeutic, you know, and I really don't have anybody I could talk to about it, you know, except a couple of y'all here on the YouTube channel. So, anyways. And it's a sense of sort of it's not real sense of bonding, but it kind of is a sense of bonding. So, you know, relating something to other people that kind of share a similar interest, or, you know, and so I don't get that in my personal life. So I find myself every single day just working and working for nothing. no matter what kind of synchronicities happen, this reality doesn't change. Anyways, what's interesting is that girl I just seen in Starbucks had the hair of the girl, and she was a little bit more on the chunkier side than the girl I seen. The girl I was with had a really nice body, and she was a single mom, and this little girl that was just with her seemed to, I wasn't paying that much attention, but she seemed to have blonde hair. Her little daughter had red hair. But then again, that little girl that I just seen may have had red hair, and I just wasn't looking that close enough. And both of them had like backpacks, and the mom had a large backpack, as if I don't know. It didn't look like they were like merely just studying. It just, when they walked out, it made me think, are they homeless? Are they walking? And then that makes me wonder, because like that girl reached out to me, or a few months back, asked me, did I know how to repair a car or something like that. And that's the last time I heard from her. And I never replied to that. So it makes me wonder if that was her. Like, and she saw me clearly. So, but she just doesn't want to talk to me though. And that's fine with me. But I'm just saying. Anyways, that's all I got to say about it. We'll see what happens. All right, y'all.